If you're also like me wondering what went wrong again this year that you're alone on Valentine's Day, hey, at least you can speculate with me if Sonic will ever be in a romantic relationship. Don't worry, I've got you.
Hey, listen! It's too late for a
I
prom.
said, let him have it, Mac.
Alright, I'm not even gonna lie, I've talked extensively about Sonic in relationships on this channel before. Heck, one of my most popular videos on this channel, if not, actually, it is my most popular video, wondering if Sonic actually loves Amy. You see, I like this kind of stuff. I'm not someone who ships characters, but I'm someone who really likes to analyze these characters and see what relationships are really like. One of my favorite videos that I've ever made on this channel is talking about the relationship between Sonic and Shadow and also Tails and Knuckles, because I feel like these are some hot topic issues that really don't get discussed very much. When taking a glance at the relationship of Sonic and Shadow, for instance, I feel like people easily just pass them off as rivals or bitter enemies or whatever you may see, but as a Sonic fan or a Sonic enthusiast or someone who just cares about this franchise, you know that it's a lot more than that. But what about Tails and Knuckles? I feel like these are two characters that really never get a chance to interact on their own. You see Tails and Knuckles always hang out, but with Sonic there. You never really see those two just hang out on their own. So what's their dynamic like? But that's not what this video is about. I'm sorry for doing little advertisements there for other videos. I just kind of got, sidetracked. But I'm curious as to if Sonic will ever be in a relationship. Now, let's think about this for a second. Let's think about the question here. Will Sonic ever be in a relationship? That's the key question for this video. Not should Sonic ever be in a relationship? Or, is Sonic in a relationship? These are not the questions I'm answering. I've answered these questions in previous videos that you should definitely go check out, but this question I think is a bit more direct and more forward. Now, I definitely do have an opinion about this, but I'll get to that towards the end of the video. Now, what makes this particular question so interesting is that I'm not relying on my own personal opinion or understanding of this series to really get by on answering this question. And also, I should probably clarify if the thumbnail or anything else I didn't say in the past 2 minutes didn't clear it up for you, but I'm talking about a romantic relationship, not Sonic being in a friendship, because that is a relationship, by the way. But yeah, no, getting back on the task at hand now, I feel like to analyze this question on will Sonic ever be in a relationship, we have to look at the previous history of what they were trying to do with Sonic from the very beginning. In the beginning, there was Madonna. This was going to be Sonic's first romantic love interest character. You see, the original plan was to have her be like, I guess, the Princess Peach to Sonic's Mario, in a sense, where Sonic would have to save her from Dr. Eggman. Yuji Naka actually talked a bit about this in saying, there's a woman from the original source material. We created a woman named Madonna, and the original plan was to have Sonic rescue her. However, that kind of silly direction didn't really fit Sonic. We wanted to go with something more orthodox. Of course, there are certainly a lot of games like that in the world, where the hero has to rescue the princess. We wanted to do something different from Mario though, and aim for a new direction. After I had kind of read this, I was like, wow, I guess that kind of answers the question. They kind of thought that from the beginning, Sonic really wouldn't work in, saving a romantic princess or something along those lines. But there is a bit of contradictory piece of information that I didn't really get to talk about yet. In another interview with Naoto Oshima, he says Sonic is smaller than a human, but he had a human girlfriend who was very attractive and would chase Sonic, so it's like a male fantasy. If we go by these words, then Sonic already was in a relationship. So that answers the question. Sonic was in a relationship. But I feel like that's too easy. I mean, this had to be, what, over 30 years ago now? I mean, come on. Like, we really can't. No. We gotta have a bit more of a challenge. Let's change the question to will Sonic ever be in a relationship to will Sonic ever be in a relationship again? Now, I really could go back and explore all of Sonic's prior relationships, but no, I'm not doing that. I don't feel like doing all that. It's too much. So instead, let's just do like a brief little overview on a couple of them and see what's relevant, what's not, and get everything all together, and eventually come to a conclusion. Alright, so let's look at characters like Princess Elise. Let's talk about her real quick. Now, this is the only Sonic character ever in the canon that has kissed him on the mouth. Consensual or not, I mean, it brought the boy back to life. I mean, what is this, Snow White or something? Either way, Sonic and Elise are a bit complicated because Sonic has never once said in this game that he was romantically interested in her, and it was entirely up to the player on if they would pursue anything further with Elise or Amy. And I use the word pursue lightly because the question really was, which one do you prefer? And Sonic could choose whichever one he wants, or rather the player could. So as far as I'm concerned, this is canon, but we don't know which one Sonic chose, so whatever your prediction might be, you got a 50-50 shot. I think this is still pretty important to look at because it shows that Sega doesn't really mind the idea, or at least at this time, didn't mind the idea of Sonic being in a relationship. Sega giving the player the option to choose one or the other is essentially saying that, hey, we don't mind you shipping these characters and something could possibly happen. I mean, they did entertain the idea of Sonic and Elise being a thing throughout the entirety of the game, so yeah, I don't think Sega seemed to mind at this point in time. Now, of course, the jury's still out if Sonic had romantic feelings for Elise, but, I mean, I guess he did. I don't know. That's not what this video is about. Who cares? Moving on, let's talk about Sonic and Amy, since this is another important one in the mainline Sonic history. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the IDW comics or anything Archie related, so no Sally Acorn in this video, sorry. But, I mean, it really isn't all that relevant, even though IDW kind of is, because Sega still is in charge of that, but I feel a little ridiculous speaking on something I truly don't fully understand, and I'm being completely transparent with you guys. If you have any information that you want to tell me, let me know in the comment section down below, because that still is pretty important, and I should be more up to date on the IDW comics, so my apologies. But even still, I don't think it'll be entirely necessary to answer this question anyway. I mean, it could help, but I don't think I'll need it. So let's quickly talk about Sonic's relationship with Amy. So in the beginning, Sonic and Amy were two people, or hedgehogs, that were, well, Amy liked Sonic a lot. Sonic had no romantic interest in Amy, or so we thought. So he always ran from her and called her annoying and everything like that, all the way up to games like Sonic Heroes and even later games as well. Eventually, Amy would change and become a character who's more independent and also wouldn't vocalize her relationship or romantic interest in Sonic at all. And in this way, Amy has become more acceptable to Sonic, and Sonic hardly ever runs away from her. Actually, Sonic never runs away from her. Now, in the beginning, the initial plan with Amy was to actually create a character that could be, Sonic's Minnie Mouse to his Mickey Mouse, in which the two characters would be together. The two of them would be boyfriend and girlfriend, or possibly even more than that. I don't know. However, the reason this didn't happen is because it didn't really match what they wanted for Sonic. They didn't want Sonic to be, quote-unquote, locked into a relationship. I'm going to come back to this later, but as of this current point in time, we know that they have an idea for Sonic. Sonic is not a character who's meant to be in a relationship. He's meant to be as fast and free as the wind. However, something seems to have changed since that moment. Sonic was allowed to be in an assumed romantic relationship with Princess Elise, and in later titles of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic and Amy seem to be getting along quite well. If we look in games like Sonic Unleashed, Amy asks Sonic on a date, and to which Sonic can reply yes or no. Once again, this is player's discretion, so at this point you could probably say, hey, this isn't canon. But at the end of Sonic and the Black Knight, we know that Sonic actually missed out on a date with Amy because of his adventure in the game. So it looks like in canon, Sonic said yes to Amy in Sonic Unleashed. And I mean, even the fact that Sega gave the player an option on whether or not to say yes to Amy kind of lets us know that they're more comfortable about this than they've ever been before. But you see, here's the issue. This isn't answering the question. Sega being more comfortable with Sonic being in a relationship isn't answering the question if Sonic will ever be in a relationship, because as of this moment, all they're doing is just kind of teasing us. They're saying, oh, well, it could happen, but we don't know. That's basically what they're doing. And I think the funniest thing about this is Sega never really stopped doing this, because even in games like Sonic Frontiers, the cut content has Sonic saying stuff like,
Amy, I should have made up my mind sooner. Wish we were sharing an umbrella, Amy.
These clips are courtesy of FazFaz, so huge shout out to them. I have no idea how they even got these in Frontiers anyway, but the point still stands. Even though it may not be canon since it's cut content, this piece of information is really important because Sega once again is continuing to tease us. Now, there's a significance behind the idea of sharing an umbrella with someone, and apparently, allegedly, in Japan, it's seen as an act of a romantic gesture or something. At least that's what I read on the internet. I mean, of course, it's safe to believe everything you see on the internet because that's what you're supposed to do. But the worst of it, I mean, the absolute worst of it is, I can't even really answer this question. I don't know if there's a definitive answer as to will Sonic ever be in a relationship, but from what we can gather with Sega getting more comfortable with this, I'm going to say no, because right now what they're doing is the safest option. You get no one upset if you keep doing this because there's no confirmation. Sonic is not technically in a relationship with any given person, but at the same time, there's enough to conclude that he might be interested in one. So, in this way, Sega is playing the safest route, and in my personal opinion, like I said I was going to give at the end of this video because this is the end, I think this is the best move ever. You see, because one of the most bothersome things to me about Sonic being in a relationship, or one of the reasons why Sonic shouldn't be in a relationship, rather, is, oh, Sonic can't be tied down to anyone, so he shouldn't be in a relationship. That just sounds like a bunch of nonsense. Because if that's the case, Sonic shouldn't have friends because he's tied down to his friends. And I know people like to use the excuse, well, I mean, Eggman could just kidnap Amy and make things a lot harder for Sonic if Sonic and Amy were to date, because that's what villains do. Well, if that's the case, Eggman could just kidnap Tails or something, because Sonic values Tails a lot. I mean, that's like his younger brother, so I'm sure he'd see that as, you know, basically the same thing. And either way, let's talk about this for a second. Amy can defend herself, so if Eggman were to do anything to Amy, it's not like Amy couldn't put up a fight. We've seen this character in action before. I'm sure she'll be just fine. Oh, and by the way, I'm sure this definitely doesn't give me any credibility at all, but I don't care if Sonic's in a relationship. That does not affect my day-to-day whatsoever. Sonic being in a relationship is just like, okay, cool if it happens, cool if it doesn't, I don't really care. That said though, I do believe that was like a really dumb argument that people who don't want Sonic in a relationship to bring up, because I mean, let's just look at the facts here for a minute. Oh wait, I already did that. Anyway, thank you all again so much for watching this video. I hope you guys have a spectacular Valentine's Day, whether you're alone or not, because I think if you're alone on Valentine's Day, you can still have a great time. And hopefully you had a great time watching this video, and will tell me in the comment section, and also leave a like and subscribe on the video because it would really go a super long way. That said, this is Sonic signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?